In Greek mythology, Narcissus was so obsessed and so concerned with his image that he neglected, denied, and rejected Echo, who was sent in to love him. So they were meant to love one another. But instead of protecting her, he was more concerned with protecting his image. Therefore, she eventually withered away, and he also didn't make it either because they were here to support one another. What does this have to do with iron deficiency? You can also say that this is our will and our life force. We are given an image in God that we are meant to protect. But you could also say that Echo is that of the feminine, not only of his lover, but also our spirit. And an Echo would also be, this is our essence and of the moon, right? The moon is a reflection. So before we ever had mirrors, we only had water. And of course, that has to do with the moon as well. So she would be a reflection of that. Echo could only repeat what had been said to her, and she could only repeat what he said also. How does this also affect our life force and our iron? There are many who experience iron deficiency, but have you ever been around anybody, or in my case, something I was called to talk about and share was a time that I had a client. But there are a lot of ways that we can encounter people and beings. Keep in mind that when it does come to a narcissist, which in this case instead of saying the term narcissist, I'm going to call them narcissos. We want to remember that it is the spirit behind the person that we are working with more so than the actual person. And this spirit is familiar, and it can show up in many different people and in many different ways that we might not recognize if we're only looking at somebody's image alone. So that's why another reason why we do not want to ignore this aspect of ourselves, which would be Echo and the spirit, because you could also say that this is him or our logic denying our intuition or anything else, right? So what happens when we deny our intuition and our spirit and the feminine aspect within is not only does she wither away, but we can get in really big trouble. When we are going off of our image alone, which is very much how we were raised in society, is to go off of what we see instead of what we feel, or to worry more about what we look like than how we feel or how others look instead of how we make other people feel. This is about getting back to the roots of where these two are supporting one another in love, because it's not that the image is not important at all. It is, are we trying to uphold a false image, or are we more concerned about our image than the truth, which is what we cannot see. In addition to a lot of other work, I am also a medical intuitive, and this does include astrology and medical astrology at times as well. And I'm also an esthetician, which is where the self-care has came into place in this. So of course I have worked with a lot of different people in my own path and in school, and a lot of my own studies in anatomy and the body and how this works. So this is the spiritual aspect of it, okay? This is the underlying aspect. And when I say spiritual, you can also consider this emotional, because you can also not see the emotions. And sometimes this can bring forth and manifest into physical parts of our body. So when it comes to iron deficiency, sometimes when we are more concerned with protecting our image, we're denying our own spirit, our own truth. We're more concerned about how we look than how we feel, type of thing. And we are comparing ourselves to others. So if you've ever been around somebody who you are drained afterward, and this is why so many women experience this after being with a man as well, who is not in tune with his own feminine, with his own heart, with his own spirit, she will feel drained. And this is what it can be like, just being in our body when we're not equally yoked on both sides as well. So when we are comparing ourselves to others, our insecurities, this is a major aspect behind iron deficiency, our insecurities. our insecurities, it is like our concern with our image and other things will drain our own life force. Or in other words, have the doors somewhat open for other familiar spirits who are trying to copy the image to come in, because you're more concerned with your image, you're giving your attention to that or to other people and their image as opposed to how you feel and your own spirit. So insecurities can be a really big, spiritually speaking, emotionally speaking, of iron deficiency in that sense. Or in other words, it can also be others trying to take your image and your life force. So when it comes to iron deficiency, this can be due to a lack of boundaries. And here we are talking about spiritual boundaries. You cannot see those boundaries. You cannot see your emotional boundaries. So if you are giving your attention to somebody around you, if it's a lover or a family member or a friend, or again, this can happen online, etc., what you are giving your attention to is enhancing their image, because our attention is in spirit. So what you are giving your attention to is enhancing that. It's making it grow. Now, this also means, and what this also has to do with, is when a man gives a woman attention, when he supplies and provides for her, and she is his focus, the spirit organically enhances the image. If you're focusing only on your image, they're both on the external reality, they're both going to wither away. Everything's going to wither away. But when a man, or when our inner masculine is focusing on and attending to the feminine spirit, how we feel, and our truth, and our desires, and our emotions, none of which we can see. When we are providing for her, for the spirit, when a man provides for a woman and fuels her with action in what she wants and the desires, him, the masculine, the image, automatically is going to expand and grow. This is going to happen organically because these two together are a battery. They are powering each other. So when he feeds her, the essence is what expands us. It's not so much what we spend money on, it's what the product is doing type of thing, right? It's what we are giving that attention to that helps us expand. Now we're getting into the spirit of the daffodil. Narcissus, once he died, he grew into a beautiful daffodil. This is not the only meaning behind a daffodil, and I'm going to keep it short for this video today, but what the daffodil represents in this case was, once he died, the daffodil grew into a beautiful flower because that part of him died. Well, he died. But what we will want to do is to take an image or a part of ourselves that we are trying to uphold and allow that part of us to die that makes us feel like we are trying to, that something that happened. A lot of times this is something that may have happened. For example, a lot of people that project onto us. One thing that I have found is that a lot of the insecurities that I had were projections of what other people have put on me. And this happens in society in general, with a lot of pressure on our appearance and on our image and what we're told is important since we basically came out of the womb. And this includes what our mothers felt as well. So, and about her image and what a woman is and our role in our personal life and relationships. So what this ultimately comes down to, how to transform that image and to become the daffodil, is through forgiveness. So this is about forgiving any people that at any time in your life, including yourself, that made you feel that you had to uphold a certain image. For example, many women do feel that we have to uphold the image of being attractive, etc. But oftentimes, and again, what I have found, a lot of this image was projected on because we're constantly looked at for how we look type of thing. Where other people are focusing more on our image than how we feel, we will want to forgive that. And they can be strangers, it can be our own mother, it can be anybody in our life, including our own thoughts and beliefs that we're more focused on our image and our appearance more so than how we feel. So if this resonates with you, type daffodil and set the intention when you type daffodil. Put a little bit of thought behind this when you are typing daffodil and think of a person or an experience or a belief that you have about yourself and set the intention to allow that idea or that comment or that connection to put that in underground into the dirt and let it rest there. And so your true image, your echo, will reflect as a beautiful daffodil that grows into the sunlight, that grows above ground. So how you really feel and your truth can come to surface and above ground and continue to water that beautiful image in you, which is how you were made in God. I recorded this a little bit ago, but I did want to add that I had been taken through a series of events that God had shown me and put me in connection with, primarily even online with social media, but also in person in many other ways, of course, but where particular women who were comparing themselves to others. And even if they were being honest about it in their journey in spiritual healing, they were still, I was seeing the very clear ties between those who had an iron deficiency and those who did not, and it was due to comparison and jealousy. It was sucking their own life force out of themselves because it is parasitic in nature. What is taking the iron out, okay? What is drawing the iron out? So when you think of it as something that is parasitic, it can be that we are doing this via our own insecurities, and everybody has insecurities to some extent, except for actual true narcissos, but they don't have that spirit and that connection to source. That is why being around them is draining, because they're using that life force to protect their image. So I really want anybody who is working with that to consider those that you are around. Of course, they can be draining yours, but it is also our personal insecurities that can cause this as well. And this is the emotional, spiritual, underlying aspect of it, not anything else. A narcissus will they will throw anybody under the bus in order to protect their image. They will throw anybody underneath the bus in order to protect their image. So the question is, are you going to continue are you willing to throw your echo, which is your desires, your truth, your will, what it is that you really want, your essence, how you feel? Are you going to protect her, or are you going to throw her underneath the bus to uphold some type of image that was probably made by man, or a projection, or a result of a wound or something else? So are you going to protect her, or are you going to throw her underneath the bus? The daffodil comes in many different colors, but I primarily think of the yellow daffodil, and that, of course, aligns with our sun and our will, our desires and our truth to align with our action and with our image. We want them to come together as one.